Okay guys, I'm gonna show you in this video how to add an HMI to a project. Actually, I'm going to show you two different ways to do it. One method is to add it after you have the project code written, and another is to add it while you're creating a new project. So in front of us on the screen, this is the project that you'll be doing, the lab that you'll be doing with 3 programs, which I'm going to give you the code, but you'll have to enter them into the CCW software. Also, I have this particular project configured for an 820. Naturally, if you want to do a simulation, you will have to change that processor to the simulator. Now, to add an HMI screen, it's very, very simple. In the upper corner here of the project organizer, you will see that there is a button here with a little plus sign on it. And all I have to do is click on that button. And I get a screen up that says Add Device. And from this screen, I can add any device I want. So we're going to add graphic terminals. We're going to drill in, and we want a panel view 800 terminal. And you'll see that there's 3 different types. There's a 10-inch, a 7-inch, and a 4-inch. I'm going to ask you to please use the 4-inch, only because if you would like me to check if your design is working, I have a 4-inch panel here that I can use to test it. If you do a 7 or a 10-inch, I will not be able to test it for you. So I'm going to select the T4T panel. It gives me the information about that particular panel, and I'll say select. And I'll just then say to add to project. So we'll add that to the project, and down here in the project organizer, you'll see that it's been added. Now I'm going to double click on this panel view, and it's going to ask me what orientation do I want. Please choose landscape, which is already selected, and say OK. Now after you press the OK button, you will come up with a screen that will allow you to configure this particular HMI screen, this panel screen. And the thing that, for this at least, you can explore some of these items, but what you want to definitely do is the protocol, the communication protocol, defaults to serial, which is the serial port for Allen Bradley, and that's a computer interface program. What we want to do is we want to drop this protocol list down, and we would like to choose under Ethernet the Allen Bradley SIP so that it becomes Ethernet. You can leave the PLC name alone. You can leave the type of controller alone. The address that would go into this box is the IP address of the controller, not of the panel, of the controller. So if I would then click in there and enter in the IP address of the PLC controller, that way the HMI knows where the data should be coming from, what controller it should be coming from. I'm going to leave that blank at this point in time. And please leave it blank because you can't run these screens on the simulator anyway. So if you leave it blank and you want me to test it, then I can put the address of my 502 or my 820 in that location to run it. That's all you need to do in this particular screen. Now, I always like to rename this, and I'm going to rename this by just clicking on it to get the field up, or right click and say rename. And I'm going to call this tank capacity HMI. Now, it comes down as you come through here, tags, alarms, recipe, screens. When you already have the program code created, which you should anyway before you create an HMI, we can assign the tags that we want to this HMI. So if we double click on tags, we will get this screen come up, and we are going to say import tags. And we're going to import them from a Micro 800. When we do that, it has a list of all the global tags that are being used in our project. So we have to check and uncheck the tags that we're not using. Okay, so I'm going to use this checkbox to turn all the checks off. Now, I know that I'm using digital output 0 and digital output 1. So I'm going to check those, that I'm going to need those. I'm not using any more digital inputs or outputs, so I'll scroll down the list. However, I am going to be using all of these tags. So I'm going to check all the tags as we go through the list here, and I'm not using any of these tags at this time. Once I have them all selected, I'll just say import. And once it imports, it'll give you a report. Yes, it succeeded. Replaced 14 tags. No tags were skipped. And I'm just going to close this. Okay, one last thing you have to do on this screen then is we have to tell it what controller these tags came from. And this is just monotonous here, because we'll click it and we'll say PLC1, and we'll do this for every one of these tags. It wish there was an easier way to do it, but this is how Rockwell has us doing it. Besides, if I have objects on a screen, I don't have to have them all going to the same PLC. I can actually have those objects go, like I can press a button and have the data go to one PLC, and then I can have a digital display that takes data from that PLC but also gets it from another PLC. So I can do that. And then we can also add descriptions for these items, such as if you double click in there, you can add a description. I'm just going to type something. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. I'm just going to say capacity as a description. Okay, so now we have those tags created. Now, under screens, we're not going to do anything with alarms. We're not going to do anything with recipes. But under screens, you'll see that it already created a screen 1. I'm going to double click on that screen to open it. And I'm going to zoom in on this screen just by clicking the plus sign, and it automatically adds for you a go to config button. And I'm just going to click on it, and I'm going to drag this away, and I'm going to resize it with the handles. And you can see it says go to config, and I'm just going to tuck it away up in the corner. Again, you could put it anywhere you want, but please do not delete that key. Please do not delete that button, because in order to end or stop the application from running and get back to the terminal or to the panel view configuration, I have to have that button there, or I don't have a way to get back to the operating system of the terminal. All right, so now that I have this screen, I'm just going to show you real quickly how to add an object and change some properties, and then I'll let you explore the rest of that. So first thing I want to do is I want to change the background color. Now maybe you like white. That's okay. You can leave it white if you want. I tend to think it's easier on your eyes to use a different color background. So with this selected, or with just clicking into it, along the right margin, you'll see properties. Now if you don't see properties there, just right click and choose properties. Notice I right clicked in the screen and said properties, and it will bring up this property dialog. All right, so I had to click on it to open it. And I'm gonna, while I'm building a screen, I'm gonna pin this so that the properties window stays there. And I can change the background color of the screen. I can change the focus color, the focus being when an object is active and has focus. You can change the focal thickness because it's a border that goes around the actual item. You can change the screen name here, which I'm going to do. So I'm going to change the background color of this. And to change it, just click on the color square and then click on the button with the 3 ellipses, and it brings up a color palette. And you can choose a color out of the palette. If you don't like what's there, you can say more colors and choose more colors, or you can define a custom color by choosing something out of this list. So you have a tremendous amount of options. So let me cancel this, and I'm going to do this one more time because I already have that color defined, and I'm going to use that gray and say OK, and notice it changes this to a gray background. Now what I want to do is I'm going to add an object to the screen. Now I'm going to open up one of the ladder routines, or one of these routines, and I'm going to open up the command status. So when I go to command status, I see that I have a start pump and a stop pump, and I have a pump ready. So let me just use the start pump as an example of entering an object. So I got to go back to the screen, and if it's not open up here, you can just double click on it down here. But mine is open here. I'm going to click there, and then I'm also going to now go to the toolbox. There's a toolbox on this right margin. I'll click on it, and I can also pin that, but I'm not going to, because once I get the object onto the screen, it'll go away so that my property window is exposed. Now start push buttons are momentary push buttons. So I'm going to find in the list, and you'll see the list is divided into entry objects, drawing tools, displays. There's some advanced features, and I'm going to show you one of the advanced features. So I'm going to take a momentary push button, and I'm going to click on it and just drag it onto the screen and drop it. I now have a momentary push button, and it tells me what shape I want. I can change the shape of this to rounded, rectangle, circle, ellipses. I'm going to keep it a rectangle, and I'm going to size this a little bit. And again, you use the design that you like and that you think the operator of your machine would like. So I'm going to leave the name as push button, and maybe what I'm going to do is, because the height is 49, I'm just going to click in there and make it an even 50 by just typing it in there. Let's see, I'm 105, so I can move this object around if I would like. I want to make sure my enable touch is true. It should come up true by default. But now I'd like to change the color of this button. Most stop buttons are green. So notice I scrolled up on this list, and I'm going to set the appearance of this. I want my border color to be green. So I'm going to set my border color just like I did before, and I'm going to choose a green. I'll just choose any green up here for now. And I would also like it to look raised. I want it to look like it's raised above the surface. I can click here and it will say inset, and you can see how it kind of looks like it's recessed into the panel, or I can choose a line which just makes it a flat type object, but I'm going to use the raised. And my preference, I like a border width of 2. So I'm going to I clicked in there, just kind of change it to 2. I don't like that big thick border on it, but again, my preference. And then I'm going to double click on this button. And when I double click on it, I get this screen with the states. And buttons have two states, a 0 and a 1. My background color I would like to be green. So I'll change this, click into it, click the button, and I chose that green. So for my 0 state, it'll be green. When the button is pressed in a 1 state, I also want it to be green. So I'll select green and say OK. I don't have to do anything with my background fill color, but my caption text, I would like this text. And if I click I notice I clicked in there. If I click the button with the 3 ellipses, it brings up a text box. I'm going to select release and I'm going to say start and say OK. Well, I want my caption text for 1 to say the same thing. Now I can also double click in there and just type start. Now I want my caption color set. Right now it's set to white. And white on green goes fairly well. If I wanted to change that color, I can click on the 3 ellipse and I can change the color. Again, your preference. I'm going to scroll across. I can change the font. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to leave this error state as is, but I want to change the background color to error as red. Hey, danger, danger, error. And I noticed that the error text, I'm going to change this text color to yellow, because yellow text on red, for my eyes, stands out to me. Again, yours might be different. So the font, you can leave it at Arial, or you can drop this down and choose a font of your choice. You can even import fonts if you have fonts that you like. I'm not going to do that, but I kind of lean toward Tahoma. It gives me a little bit more definition of characters like the 0 and the O and an I or a letter number 1. You could change the font size, and you can leave it at 14 if you want, or you can look at the text and say, you know, I want that bigger, or I want that smaller, and you can change it. And you just click in and type a number that you want. There's no drop down or anything. And also, I like to make it bold. So I make everything bold. And then as you scroll across, you can make it italics, you can make the underline, you can center the caption. So there's a lot of options that you can set, but I'm not going to set anything else. And I'm going to make sure I'm on my state 0, because when you click the OK button, the graphic is going to show you what that looks like with whatever state you have selected. So I'm going to say that, and I'm going to say OK, and you'll see that I now have a start push button. And I'm going to just place that somewhere. Okay, so that's how you enter a button. You enter objects exactly the same way. Now, the one thing that I did not do was assign a variable to this. This has to be assigned a variable. And for this particular button, I need a write tag under connections. So in the write tag means that when I tap that button, it's going to write the value of that button, a 0 or a 1, to that variable name in the PLC. So I'll click into here and I'll drop this list down, and you can pick what you want. This happens to be start pump. I'll pick start pump, and now that value will be written to the tag or the variable name start pump. That's how easy that is. Okay, I want to do one more thing before I let you go on this one. Because again, entering objects is simply as going to the toolbox and picking the object that you want and setting the parameters and properties for that particular object, along with the variable and the tag that's going to be required. Now, in this project that you're going to be doing, there's a graphic of a tank or a vessel. So I want to show you how that is added. What you do is you want to come down and find image, which is under drawing tools. I'm going to click on image and I'm going to drag an image onto the screen. And it gives me this kind of empty box. I have properties for it, so I can set properties if I want. But right now what I would like to do is I want to set an image for that particular object. So I'm going to double click on it. And when I double click on it, it brings up an image import dialog box. And you'll see that there are a lot of categories for different types of images. And you can explore these if you'd like. But I want tanks. So I'm going to go to tanks. And you'll see there's a lot of different types of tanks. Oops, I went too far up. Let me go back to tanks. Okay. And you can select whatever type of tank you want. And let's say I choose this tank right here. And it shows you what it looks like. This particular tank has also a jacket on it, probably for steam jacket. And once you have what you want, you can say select. If you have a graphic that you want to use that you created, you can also import graphics. They should be in bitmap format, .bmp. But we're going to do, actually this one is PNG, so I guess you can use PNG also. But I have that, and I'm going to select it. Now, there's the graphic. To me, that's a little small. So I'm going to drag the image, and I can make it and size it and move it around as much as I want. It's a static graphic. But it shows you, hey, it's a tank. And it's static. You don't really have to set any properties unless there's something in here that you would like to do. One of the other things that I'm going to have you do in this next project is to simulate the level coming up, and that's nothing more than a bar graph. So you go back to the toolbox and you look for a bar graph. Let's see, that's going to be under, we got to find bar graph. See, I look for stuff too. I don't know exactly where things are. Let's see, drawing tools, display, probably. Bar graph. I'm going to pull a bar graph in. Notice I just dropped it. Believe it or not, that's a bar graph. And I'm going to size this. I'm going to set it right on top of the tank. And then you can come over and set the graphic properties of it so that you can make it, like a white background with a green fill or blue fill, whatever it is you want. You can also change that to look like it's recessed in. And let's see, border style, we'll do a recess, an inset. That way it looks like it's kind of built in. And again, you want the tag name. This is a read tag. The read tag is going to go out to the PLC and it's going to read the value of a tag and display that value in bar graph format. So the read tag in this case is going to be scaled level. I know that. You'll know that when you get to do this lab. And I assigned that. So my scaled level will now be displayed on that bar graph. And there's other items that you can add to this. You can add a scale to it. You can add numbers to the scale. There's just so much you can do. So let's go to the toolbox. If you want to add text, it's just a matter of looking for the text, bringing the text in, double clicking, and typing text. And say OK. You can change the font size, you can change the background color, you can turn the line borders on and off. There's just a ton of different things that you can do to make your HMI screen look good to you, make it easy to navigate, and just make it look pleasing to the eye. All right. So I want to do one last thing in this video. Let me just close this down. I'm not going to save it for now. And I'm going to open CCW again, because you can also add this HMI when you're creating a brand new project. So there's at least two ways that you can add an HMI screen or devices to your project. So let me click New, and I'm just going to leave it named Project 1 and put it where it says there, and I'll say Create. Normally you would choose where do I want this project to be saved. Now I'm going to add a controller, so let me add the controller. You've all done this already. We'll say Select. Now before I say add the project, I'm going to also, let's do a graphic terminal, panel view 800. I selected the 4-inch, say Select. All right, and maybe I need a motor drive, so I can do drives. I can do a PowerFlex drive. See, a 750. Let's do, and we'll do a 753. Let's see. Yeah, I'll do a 753. We'll say Select, and then I'll say Add the project. And it's going to create the project. And I want you to notice that for the drive, it automatically brings up the drive, the device definition page for that, and I can give it a name and a description. I can tell it what revision it is. I can give it the drive ratings that I want. I can figure out if it has any peripherals. I can import settings. I can export settings. There's a lot you can do with the drives. I'm just going to close this for now. And you would then double click on the HMI and pick exactly what we did the last time. Let me collapse this properties window. And you would just select everything that we did before, and off and running you go. So you can add all the devices either at the start, or you can add them as you go. So either way works fine. All right, that's all I want to do in this video. I'm going to do one more video because I'm going to have you do a final project instead of a final exam. And the final project is actually going to build on Lab 3. And I want to just do one more quick video to show you again how to create, or one method at least, of creating a user-defined function block, because that's going to be part of your final project. Okay, I'll see you online, and I'll see you Tuesday in Zoom, 7 o'clock. Talk to you later. Bye.